Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all here. Go ahead and begin with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. Fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. Metta prayers. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. It's the final Wednesday of the month. We'll do a 20-minute silent meditation. If you like to mute the computer and use the timer, you can do that. I'm going to start right now. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering candles and incense, reciting the Dharma and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha, all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved in the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, all those working toward the healing of those afflictions. May they all be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. Who came in after I got through saying hello? So, hi, Catherine. Hello, Daphne. Hello, Jennifer. And everybody else I think I already said hello to. So good to see you all here. It struck me as I rang the bell, as I was setting the timer. Hi, Jennifer and Dolores. Dee. I'm reading this book by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu about joy. And I got it from the library in ebook form. I had to wait for it for a couple of months before it became available. So I've just started reading it. And so I haven't got into it very far, but there's an exchange between them where they're talking about kind of what their typical day is. And the Dalai Lama gets up at 3 a.m. to meditate for 5 hours. And it's probably not just meditation. I'm sure there's a lot of, he's a Vajrayana Buddhist, so there's a lot of esoteric practices involved in that too, I'm sure, I would imagine. And I thought, and here we are. I'm gonna ring this bell and for 20 minutes, 5 hours. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about Ullambana. So I know some of you are showing up at White Sands regularly. A couple of you are at least. And, this Sunday is Ulambana. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about what that means. And I'm assuming since Kai Tien is going to be there, that he's going to give some sort of Dharma talk. And he might ask me to say something, he might not. So, and it's always kind of a surprise whether I'm giving a Dharma talk or not on occasions like that. I usually don't expect to, but then once in a while he'll tell me to say something. And Sensei Jim Ginjo Gallagher is going to also be there. And I don't expect him to speak. Although he might, never know. Anyway, he'll be around for those of you who know him, who did the last session there. He'll be there to say hello to. And those of you who are thinking about going to the next one, if you want to, I don't know how available we'll be. So, I mean, after services, I don't know if we'll be hanging out with Kai Tien, if he's got a lot to talk about or not. Anyway, so I thought I would talk about Ulambana for those of you who might go, or who have no idea what I'm talking about. I'll kind of explain this. So, Ullambana is the Japanese word, for those of you who practice Japanese, is Obon. And it's the kind of casually referred to as Ghost Month or Ghost Festival. It's celebrated different times in different cultures, but in Japan, it's always kind of around this time. In Japan, for some reason, it's a little earlier. I'm not sure why. But the whole story is, so the Buddha had two key disciples. Those of you who have been listening to my podcast know this, but some of you don't, so I'll repeat it. Sariputta and Moggallana. Maha means great, and there was another Moggallana, so sometimes they call him Moggallana. Anyway, so they ordained under him fairly early after his enlightenment. They practiced with him for a very long time. They became arhats pretty quickly after their ordination. And they were extremely good teachers, very, very virtuous people, very trustworthy. So the Buddha considered him his key disciples. And if you ever go into like a Thai monastery or a Laotian monastery or something, sometimes flanking the Buddha on either side, there'll be statues of other monks meditating. And that's usually Sariputta and Moggallana. Sariputta on the right, Moggallana on the left. So as I said, they were both extremely advanced practitioners, and both arahants, but they were very different people. They each had their own style, their own strengths. And Moggallana's, Sariputta, his was he was a really good teacher, taking like lay people and people like that, and really instructing them very carefully, step by step. When the Buddha started to ordain women, he put Sariputta in charge of instructing the women because he considered him the best teacher and of unsurpassed virtue. So he knew he could trust them. Moggallana was also a very good teacher, and he was known for really sticking with his students, all the way to the bitter end. I mean, until they reached the limits of their capacity as practitioners. But he also had some sort of psychic skills, for lack of a better term. So he developed a lot of metaphysical powers. And so, I mean, don't get bogged down on whether this stuff is true or not. These are spiritual stories. They're not history lessons, although he probably was a historical figure, and probably some of these things were attributed to him. The ability to levitate and, appear, travel through space with just his mind and stuff like that. These are the kinds of stories that are told about his abilities. So Moggallana's mother was not a virtuous person. She did some pretty evil things, including being really insulting to monks that came around for alms and stuff like that. And so she passed away, and Moggallana started worrying about her, wondering where she had ended up. And so he sat down in meditation. One of the things that he could do was travel through different realms, and he could kind of, read the minds of people who were far away and all of that. So he went looking for his mother, and he looked around in the heaven realms, but probably briefly, because I don't think he thought she would appear there. And she hadn't been reborn as a human being, and she wasn't an animal. And he finally found her in like the deepest, darkest hell, and she was being tormented terribly, and she couldn't eat or drink anything. So this is kind of, you've probably heard me talk about hungry ghosts, and hungry ghosts, if they try to eat something that's not offered to them, it'll turn into something disgusting, hot coals or filth or something like that. And that's why we feed the hungry ghost, because if you offer it to them, they can get some sustenance. If they can get some sustenance, they can make some spiritual progress. So he went looking for his mother, and he found her in this terrible hell, and just being treated terribly, and very, very hungry and very, very thirsty. She couldn't receive anything, couldn't consume anything, and so he thought he would offer her food and drink. Well, it didn't work. Even an offering coming from someone so advanced, an arahant, the Buddha's, left-hand man, and he tried to offer her food and drink, and she couldn't consume it. Didn't do her any good. So he was just overwhelmed by compassion and pity for his mother in this terrible circumstance. And so he went to the Buddha, and he told him what was going on, and he said, "Isn't there something I can do?" And the Buddha said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is." He said, "If you wait until the rains retreat, the rains happen." So in the Buddha's day, and to some extent now, but in the Buddha's day especially, during the rainy season, which in India starts like the middle of July by our calendar, roughly, more or less, and ends around the middle of October by our calendar. It was, extremely rainy. And so it's kind of uncomfortable and unsafe to be out, like living in the forests and things like that. Plus, that's when the rice planting happens. And so the rice fields have to be flooded, and the rice sprouts and all that kind of stuff during the rainy season. And so the Buddha didn't want his monks to be unsafe. And number two, didn't want them tromping around in the rice fields. And so the tradition became established that during the rains, they would figure out where the Buddha was, and they would go stay with him. And then over time, there were too many monks for them all to end up at the same place as the Buddha was, but there were monasteries. And so they would all go to a monastery, and they would spend the rainy season, which is about 3 months, in a monastery together. And so they would be doing a lot of practicing. They would be getting a lot of teachings. They'd be doing a lot of meditating together in a group. So there would be all of these monks meditating together and practicing together and advancing in their Dharma studies and so on. And so the Buddha said, wait till about the middle of the rains, when all these monks are assembled and all this virtuous stuff is being done. So all this merit is being generated. Merit is, the results of good actions. And so when you get, and by the way, since there would be a lot of monks at monasteries, a lot of lay people would go to the monasteries too. And so they would be able to talk with the monks and see the monks and hear from the Buddha if they were at the monastery where the Buddha was. And so they were getting a lot of instruction. And so there's all this instruction and all this worship and dedication and everything happening during that 3-month period. And so the Buddha said, if you go right around the middle of that time and make the best offerings you can make to the monks on her behalf, then it will help her get out of the hells. And so he did this. He waited till around now on the calendar, and he went and he got stuff given to him, and he went and gave it to other monks and so on, made all these offerings to the Buddha and offerings to monks and so on his mother's behalf. And as a result of this, his mother was able to get out of these horrible hells and actually move forward in the spiritual realms. Well, Moggallana was a very compassionate person. And so he was really pleased that this happened, but he wondered, could other people do this too? And so he went to the Buddha And he said, listen, can others do this same thing? Can we make this a tradition where it can help other people also? And the Buddha said, yes. Tell others that if they want to do this, if they want to come to the monasteries and make offerings of food and drink and bedding and things like that, flowers, candles, and incense, all those things, if you make offerings at this time and dedicate it with your ancestors in your heart, and so you're doing it on behalf of your ancestors, then 7 generations of your ancestors will benefit from this. If your parents are alive, and grandparents are alive, whatever ancestors are alive, they'll have long, happy lives. And those that have passed will be advanced spiritually. So this tradition was established then in the Buddha's time. And then that story is in a sutra called the Ulambana Sutra. It's not in the Pali Canon, so it's sutra with an R. It's a Mahayana sutra. So, it probably was composed sometime after the Buddha's death. But that's how this tradition came into being. So today, in much of the Buddhist world, this is still the rainy season, and even like Southeast Asian Buddhist organizations and temples and stuff that exist in the West, in the U.S. and elsewhere, acknowledge, they still treat this time, the rains, as a special time. It's referred to as Vasa. I think I talked about this at the beginning of Vasa this year. So, and so this period of time is when, people will make offerings to benefit their ancestors. So, I think it's a good time when you believe in ancestors or not. It's not ancestor worship, by the way. Exactly. There are religions where devotion to one's ancestors is kind of the core of the religion, and they do ancestor worship ceremonies and stuff. Sort of related idea, I think, but you're making offerings to the Buddha and the monks and so on, and sharing them with each other, but for the benefit of your ancestors, so that they can make spiritual progress. Anyway, as I was going to say, if if the idea of making offerings to benefit your ancestors doesn't float your boat, look at it as kind of a metaphorical thing. Look at it as an opportunity to acknowledge that you're here. John, I don't think you need to. So you could bring some food offering of some sort. So what happens usually is the morning service is going to happen at kind of the usual time, but I don't think it'll be the full service. I don't know. It's a little different every time. And what with COVID and all of that, and I don't know how many people are going to be attending because of COVID and stuff. The abbot will be there. My prediction is that the morning service the chanting portion will probably be trimmed down a little bit. The abbot will talk a lot. There'll probably be acknowledgement of some people in the community and stuff like that. And then, according to the newsletter, at 3:00 is going to be the actual Ulambana ceremony. So the Ulambana ceremony, they put a table. This is what they've been doing anyway. I guess they'll do the same thing. They'll put a table on the front porch. Yeah, ceremony is 3 p.m. They put a table out on the front porch of the temple, and all the food offerings and stuff go there. So if you're going to stay around for that whole thing, if you're going to be there at 3, you can put whatever food offering that you've put, you can put on the table. And then the Vietnamese monastics, so the Sukos, the nuns, and Quincy, and the abbot and stuff, do a whole lot of chanting in Vietnamese. I think they're doing basically a hungry ghost ceremony, maybe with some extra stuff. I'm not really sure. I asked them once, and I didn't really get an answer. So, but there's incense and that kind of thing, and that's the Ulambana ceremony. So if you want to bring something, bring some food to put on the table. It'll end up getting consumed by the monks and so on. You can also just, if you want to make a donation and think about it, I'm making this donation, whatever your donation normally would be to the temple, and making this on behalf of my ancestors, then that's a good way to acknowledge your gratitude to the people who, without whom you wouldn't be alive, right? Which is kind of where I was leading with the other part of that is, it's an opportunity to acknowledge that you're here because of others who went before you. And I like to think when I do this, I don't just think about my parents and grandparents, but the people who've helped make me who I am, helped make me a decent human being, people like my teachers, they're my spiritual parents, or people like Koyo Kabose and Tunchak Kun, and those kind of people like that. That's not the complete list by any means. And so I have my teachers at heart, and there's others who have passed. So in Japanese Obon, a big thing, part of that, at least as I've experienced it, is acknowledging people that you were close to who have passed. And so making offerings on their behalf also. So, there's a lot of people in my life in the last year and a half who have passed away, and so I'll be making offerings on their behalf also, and that sort of thing. And that's, I find that a kind of a helpful thing to do. So anyway, that's Ullambana. So if you go to their website, I think there's instructions for that on there. If not, you can call White Sands. I know their contact information is on their website. You can call them and say, I want to come. I think what they're trying to do is get a sense of how many people are coming. I don't know any other reason to. They've never had registration before. They used to do a lot of feeding people at these events, but because of COVID, I don't think they're going to do the amount of food preparation they usually do, but I don't know. So I would call the number on the White Sands website and say, I want to come. And however many of you there are. Sure. And if you're uncomfortable with the idea of being I don't know what the situation is going to be in the meditation hall. Everybody is masked, but if it's a huge crowd, it's going to be a huge crowd. So you might, for safety's sake, you might want to wait till the 3:00 thing and come just for that. Come a little early and enjoy the grounds and stuff. But anyway, it'll be a very different year than usual. Usually for Ullambana, the meditation hall is crammed full of people. And then everybody does the thing outside. So I don't know what they're going to do this time. It'll be a surprise to all of us. Anyway. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Got any more questions? Feel free to email them to me. I'd call them and let them know either way. That's what I would do, because it's not clear. I don't really know why the registration thing was even there. I just know when they sent out the newsletter and the announcement for it, it said call to register. And actually, I tell you what, John and Daphne, if you're planning to go, if you've got my email address, I know John, I've got yours, John, but Daphne, I'm not sure about you. Email me, and I'll send you a different number that you can call. Catherine, on the newsletter, did it say which one you needed to register for? Michelle said you don't need to register at all. I guess she didn't want a million people calling her and to register, because when they sent it out on the newsletter, it said to call to register, but maybe that was copied over from last year or something. So I don't know. I wish I knew. I don't know. I'm going. They know I'm coming though. So I'll see you there. All right. If you get any more questions, feel free to email me and I'll see what I can find out about registration. All right. So have a good night. I'll see some of you on Sunday. And the rest of you, I'll see you next week. Take care.